Chapter 4, The Financial Freedom Roadmap. The wealthiest people in the world are rarely the most intelligent. I'm no exception to this. They don't necessarily have the most enormous IQs. They definitely don't have the highest degrees from the most prestigious institutions. The most successful people are not smarter or better than anyone else. Do you know the one big thing, though, that they have that the rest of the world doesn't? They have systems. I mean systems for everything. Think about the last time you tried to assemble some IKEA furniture. Do you remember how you felt when you dumped that box out and countless pieces spilled all over the floor? There's possibly no worse feeling in the world. Okay, there's probably worse feelings, but I mean, it's a pretty bad feeling. And then you opened up the instruction booklet and you saw the steps. You were overwhelmed, but at the same time relieved that someone else figured out how to assemble it so that you didn't have to. All of those pieces fit together, and in the end, after exerting some effort and following the steps in order, you created a functional, finished product. Without that instruction book, or roadmap, if you will, that pile of raw materials would end up in the garbage. Well, guess what? That's the way that your money feels right now. It feels like garbage. It desperately wants you to find a system for investing in your financial future and implement it. But right now, your money just feels underappreciated and undervalued. Maybe you're thinking, but Kris, I've never even had enough surplus cash to be able to hurt its feelings. That may be true, but it's not going to be true for much longer. Follow my financial freedom roadmap, and a time will come when you won't need to be shopping IKEA or assembling your own furniture, unless you want to because you're crazy. Listen, I delayed all forms of financial gratification for 5 years at the start of my journey, and then a time came when I could literally buy anything I wanted. On the other hand, I haven't changed my lifestyle in the last 10 years, even though my net worth continues to increase. One of my real estate mentors, Dolph DeRoos, said that his ultimate goal was to own nothing and rent everything when he needed it. Aside from my estate and a few nice vehicles, I essentially own nothing. I'll use a private driver to take me around when I don't feel like driving or can't trust myself to not use my cell phone behind the wheel. I also travel in style, and I visit the nicest resorts, and I can enjoy private planes and helicopters when needed without actually buying them. The lifestyle I have crafted gives me incredible variety, and frankly, is far less expensive because I don't get attached to things. I'm obsessed with making epic memories with the people I love, not the objects I own. Aside from travel, my favorite thing to spend money on is mentorship from some of the world's leading authorities. I maximize my learning and life experiences when I engage with the best of the best in every field. Why have home-cooked meals when a personal chef can make healthy food taste exquisite? If you struggle at the gym, then why not work with the best personal trainer in the area? My wife and I have also decided to take our 4 kids' education into our own hands and hire private teachers to educate them according to our standards. My financial roadmap is what enabled us to be able to do this. And can you guess who is teaching my children about money? It's certainly not some part-time assistant football coach economics teacher. Even more than a goal to own nothing and rent when needed, my underlying goal has always been to believe I actually can have it all. Why not think big? So before we begin, I need you to do the following. Set aside any hint of limited mindset, doubt, or skepticism, and start thinking bigger. You may be approaching things from a scarcity mindset, as in, I don't have the money to invest in any financial vehicles, let alone the ones that Kris is going to teach me. Instead, I want you to think, I will find the money to set aside because my future and my legacy depend on it. In this chapter, I introduce my system for becoming a multimillionaire. But here's the crazy part. Because of what I know about human nature, I also know that 95% of people who read this will never implement the system. Why is that? I don't want to turn this into a psychology book, but let's just say that taking action is not a strength found in most people's wheelhouse. I hope you are the exception. I want you to join the small percentage of people who develop systems to run their lives. Better yet, I want you to become a person who saves time by finding and implementing proven systems and procedures. The inability or unwillingness to take action is why I can freely give away my system for becoming a multimillionaire and know that few will act on my advice. There will still be many who sit around complaining about how the wealthy must know some secrets that no one else does. No, they don't. The wealthy just use proven systems for making money. Life functions well when you have systems and processes in place. And the sooner you realize this, the faster you will have it all. Ready to learn my system for exponentially growing your wealth? I hope so. And unlike any IKEA coffee table, there is no assembly required. And then my system happened. Remember my gray cubicle nightmare job? Fast forward a few short years and picture a 26-year-old me gazing out a storybook window at a rolling green golf course amidst the luxury of my own custom-built mansion. What the heck happened? My system happened. I started having success with a few investments, and I began developing my theory of wealth. That theory and my successes ultimately became the system you're about to learn. It started with aggressively saving money through making personal financial sacrifices. Then I poured my savings into investment vehicles. Those investments created a monthly positive cash flow. I took that cash flow and I put it right back into more investments. I did this repeatedly until 4 years later when I had a $12,000 surplus each month after paying all my bills. Every subsequent month, the excess cash grew until it became utterly ridiculous to keep going to my traditional job. I turned my wealth creation into a systematic machine that took on a life of its own. The secrets that made all this possible were simple. Number one, I reserved money for investing. Then I invested that reserve into high ROI investment vehicles. And then finally, I converted those investments into cash flow to reinvest and fund my lifestyle. These 3 steps became my financial freedom roadmap for exponentially increasing my wealth each year. There are 2 components of this roadmap. First, the strategy. My compounding ROI investment strategy leverages the 5 core vehicles required to build wealth. And then number 2, the system. I use the strategy as the foundation for my 3-step wealth creation system: reserve, invest, and convert cash. The path to financial security is not hidden. Study the rich and you'll discover this is how they do wealth. In the following 2 sections, we'll break down both essential elements in my roadmap. The strategy: compounding ROI investments. In the last chapter, we tore apart 5 inadequately slow investments found within the tunnel of broken dreams. I also previewed 5 exciting new investment vehicles that feature ROIs ranging from single-digit to infinite ROI. Then we discussed compounding and how powerful it is. See how much financial genius you've already awakened? You know exactly what's coming next and what vehicles and destinations make up the roadmap. So now let's formally define the strategy. Definition time: compounding ROI investment strategy. Noun: a system used by financial geniuses consisting of 5 vehicles for building wealth. Leveraging all 5 and reinvesting the surplus produces a compound effect so powerful that you create a lifetime of wealth within a few short years. It's time to meet your new fleet that is an integral part of the plan. The vehicles that are well equipped to keep you riding from LA, insufficient savings, to New York City, ample savings in comfort, style, and class. Introducing your new financial fleet. The first vehicle in the financial fleet is your armored truck full of investment funds. It's the place to stash your cash. With the appropriate aggressive saving strategy, or ASS, more on this in a minute, you'll be able to store reserves in a specific account. The average bank account might produce 0.1% return, but this is a more intelligent account that delivers a yield between 5 and 7% annually. Listen, you trade your time for money every day, but what have you done with that money so far? You see, when invested this way, your money starts working for you and not the other way around. Ultimately, you will use your reserve vehicle as a smart holding tank for your money as you prepare to fill up the tanks of your new investment fleet. The second vehicle in your financial fleet is your passive income investment vehicle that produces double-digit ROI through real estate. I'll explain how it's possible to tap into passive turnkey real estate investments that can consistently deliver an annual ROI of around 25%. You can create as much as 27 times more wealth than conventional retirement vehicles by utilizing this investment alone. This vehicle is what allows you to amass millions through your working life. It won't create financial freedom overnight, but it will ensure in time that you get there. Your fleet's third vehicle is an asymmetric risk investment that produces triple-digit ROI through implementing a unique stock market philosophy. The stock market intimidates many people, but it doesn't have to be complicated. I don't like 401ks and IRAs, but that doesn't mean I don't like the stock market. Let me be clear. The only thing I dislike about society's vehicles are boring single-digit ROIs. I love owning a piece of the future through carefully vetted companies with incredible upside. Even better, market returns are passive, like the second vehicle, so they don't rob your most valuable time. Your fleet's fourth vehicle is an active income vehicle that produces quadruple-digit ROI through smart business investments. This vehicle requires minimal time involvement for maximum returns. It also acts as an accelerator to help you achieve goals in years instead of decades. And finally, the fifth vehicle in your fleet is the strategic partnership vehicle that produces infinite ROI. You generate infinite ROI when leveraging the power of other people's money. This strategy is the ultimate accelerator for achieving your biggest results in the shortest time. Now, as we continue, you will further awaken your financial genius and learn how to produce results far exceeding those promised by society's game plan. By the end of this book, you'll understand how to leverage each of these vehicles to harness the power of compounding ROI investments. Of course, a strategy is only as good as the system in which it's integrated, and fortunately, I've developed such a system. The system, 3-step wealth creation. Through many systems, you'll learn how to properly reserve, invest, and convert cash into wealth via the following steps. Step 1, reserve financial fuel for your fleet. You need an aggressive saving strategy, or ASS, to reserve 20% of what you make for the investments that build your wealth. Step 2, invest reserves into your investment vehicles. You see, once you've stocked your reserves with financial fuel, it's time to pour that money into your investment vehicles. Step 3, convert investments into further investments and lifestyle cash flow. Take profits and flow them back into your reserve vehicle to have more capital for investments. Eventually, you'll have enough cash flow to support your dream lifestyle as well. All right, let's start by diving into each of these steps in depth. We're going to start with step 1, reserve. I hope this doesn't come as a surprise, but you do need money for the system to work. In other words, you need to utilize a single-digit investment called your reserve vehicle. This is an alternative to a savings account that grows 5 to 7% tax-free every year while it waits to be deployed. The entire system is rooted in your ability to set aside a reserve, invest those reserves into high ROI vehicles, and convert the outcomes into more wealth. The good news is you've hopefully got a job and you're already trading time for dollars. However, you may also be in a situation where there's no money left after paying your bills. If that's the case, it also means that there's currently no financial fuel for your investments. The natural tendency is to spend 10% more or less than you make. This inclination is actually a derivative of Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to the time available for its completion. We do the same thing with money that we do with our time. Our budget expands to what we can afford, or often to more than we can afford. If this is a natural instinct, then I guess it's time to fight nature. You're already making the most enormous sacrifice you'll ever make, trading your valuable time for dollars. So now I need you to commit to the following. Save at least 20% of what you earn for your reserve vehicle. I call this the aggressive saving strategy, ASS, for leveraging financial fuel into your investment vehicles. In other words, you now have a reason to move your ass to save fuel for your investments if you want your financial dreams and goals to come true. Now hold the phone here. Let's play devil's advocate. Kris, even saving 20% of what I make still won't amount to much. Listen, after years of saving 20%, it may not feel like you've set enough money aside to make a difference. Here's the good news. You will be earning much higher ROIs, so you don't need to save a lot to have a significant financial impact, and frankly, for the system to work. Yeah, but Kris, there's no way that I can save even 10% of what I make. You're not alone. According to Career Builder, almost 80% of US workers live paycheck to paycheck. More than 25% of our country has no savings at all, and 70% of workers making less than $100,000 are in debt. Not to mention more than half of minimum wage workers have to work more than one job to make ends meet. I say all of this to simply say, yes, it's going to be a challenge, but yes, you can do it. And by the way, I started in debt with nothing, making less than $20,000 a year. There is a way. Stick with it, my friend. Action step. For this system to function, you must save $1 out of every 5 that you earn. If you're accustomed to spending every dime, I know that 20% probably seems like a really huge ask. Find a way. Rethink your finances. Look at your budget and see where you can make temporary sacrifices. If you can't start with 20%, then start with 10%, but then create a 90-day plan to increase your savings to 20%. Find a way. If you're struggling to save, you may find some reassurance in the fact that the fourth vehicle in your fleet is designed to make money on the side, so you don't have to rely solely on your job for reserve capital. However, if 20% or even 10% is still too much of a stretch, go to kriskrohn.com/save to find some smart, easy to implement strategies for saving more so that you can invest more. You can be an outlier and rise to the challenge. I did it starting with nothing, and so can you. Fueling your reserve is a commitment that comes with an almost immeasurable payoff. Before I share the next 2 steps in my wealth creation system, I would like you to intentionally pause. It's time to decide how much of your hard-earned income you'll reserve as fuel for future high ROI investments. In reality, 20% should be the minimum. That means you may be able to save more, or you may not be able to save 20% yet, in which case you need a plan to get there. Decide the exact percentage you're going to set aside each month as financial fuel for your investments. It looks like this. I'm going to commit to saving blank percent of my net monthly income to fuel my reserve. Make this decision right now in this moment. Excellent. Make this your highest financial priority. You'll need this reserve for investing like you need air for breathing. Once you have filled the reserve with financial fuel for your investment vehicles, it's time to put that money to work through the rest of the system, which takes us to step 2, invest. The next step in the wealth creation system is to invest. As you begin saving 20% of your income, see more in Chapter 5, your goal is to reserve enough money to fuel the next 3 investment vehicles covered in Chapters 6 through 8. This step empowers your money to produce double, triple, and quadruple digit ROIs. The 3 investment vehicles include real estate, shares in specific types of companies as passive income, and business as an active income. These investments vary in size and will become easier to understand as you read about each one. The third step then, to convert. Once you correctly implement the first 2 steps in the wealth creation system, your money will naturally lead you into step 3 by converting into 2 things. Number 1, cash flow. Cash flow is money that your investments pay you back, also called profits and dividends, that can then be reinvested or utilized to fund your lifestyle. And number 2, increase your asset value. Your investments will become more valuable with time, so they can eventually be sold for even greater profits. As your investments start generating cash flow, it's vital to redirect the flow back into your reserve to reinvest. More investments produce more cash flow. Allow the cycle to continue moving forward, and you'll eventually have enough cash flow to support your dream lifestyle. At this point, it won't even be a cycle of cash flow, it will become a cyclone of wealth. I enthusiastically invite you to get hooked on growing your money and making it work for you. This is exciting. The goal is to earn an ROI that you can multiply over and over again. In a nutshell, you're putting compounding interest to work on something exciting. This starts happening at a double-digit ROI level and gets more appealing as it goes along. For example, imagine earning a 25% ROI on a real estate deal, and then you sell that property in 5 years and use the profits to reinvest and buy 2 more properties, both of which deliver similar returns. That means that the original investment is now earning collectively 50% ROI, not 25%. If you repeat the process again in 5 years, you'll be earning 100% ROI. All right, now for illustrative purposes, let me give you a different example. Imagine for a moment the feeling you would get if you doubled your money in 90 days. How would that feel? It'd feel great. Are you the kind of person then that would take those spoils of war and go on a spending spree? Or are you the type that would take the profits and put it back into the system to increase the gains? Your answer to that question says a lot about how well the system will work for you. And if the idea of reinvesting that money gets you excited, then you and I have a lot in common. Even if you start with a small investment, thanks to the power of compounding ROI, this system can create a tsunami of results as you reinvest. The longer the profits stay in the system, the more they multiply and the bigger your ROI becomes. Your financial fuel, that 20% reserve, is what initially generates this momentum. So the more you put in, the more you get back. You should become obsessed with investing instead of spending or penny pinching. The more you invest, the more cash flow you generate, and the more it comes back to you. With every cyclone rotation, the money gets more significant, which means your net worth grows, which means your dreams manifest. And before you know it, you're an ultra successful entrepreneur and philanthropist who is living your best life while preserving your most important asset, which you know by now is time. Financial Freedom Roadmap. Combine the compounding ROI investment strategy with the 3-step wealth creation system, and what do you get? The Financial Freedom Roadmap. And with that, now I want you to imagine exactly what the Financial Freedom Roadmap looks like. It starts with number 1, setting money aside by reserving it with your aggressive saving strategy. Your goal is to set 20% aside. It's a huge sacrifice in the beginning, but it will be worth it. Next, you're going to take those reserves and you're going to invest them into high ROI vehicles. You've got a double-digit passive income vehicle through real estate I'm going to teach you about. You have an asymmetric risk vehicle that offers triple-digit ROI. You've got an active income vehicle that offers the possibility of quadruple-digit ROI. And then you have your strategic partnership vehicle that produces infinite ROI. And then you're going to take the profits that come off of your high ROI investments and you're going to reinvest it in your reserve vehicle and you're going to deploy it again. You're going to put it right back out there into your investments. And what happens is it starts building up momentum like a flywheel, moving faster and faster and faster until it spins off so much cash flow that it doesn't all need to be reinvested. It can also go now and support the lifestyle of your dreams. So let's summarize. Step 1, reserve. Reserve money by implementing your aggressive saving strategy. View this as your top financial priority. Your goal is to figure out how to save 20% of your paycheck every month. That money will funnel into your financial reserve vehicle that will deliver a powerful single-digit ROI waiting to be deployed into step 2, which is investing. Invest that reserve into the next 4 investment vehicles. In part 3, you'll learn about 2 additional investments that are not investments in the traditional sense, but are absolutely critical for your personal success. And then step 3, convert. Convert these investments to produce a consistent return that you feed back into your financial reserve vehicle, and then repeat this cycle to build up that amazing cyclone of wealth. This is the Financial Freedom Roadmap that includes the strategy and system to help you build wealth. In subsequent chapters, I will explain all 5 investment vehicles in more detail so you can harness each one's financial power. And don't miss part 3 at the end of the book to discover the remaining 2 unconventional investments that have changed the trajectory of my life far more than anything else. So, how much financial fuel is in your tank? Understanding how to invest money into the most well-equipped vehicles is worthless if you don't have any financial fuel for your reserve tank. Bottom line, if you don't set aside a portion of the money that you earn for investing, the system is not going to work. You want this system to work. You need this system to work. So stop trying to assemble that IKEA coffee table without the proper pieces and without the instruction booklet. That's just a lesson in futility and frustration. Follow the steps, trust the system. Got a little bonus section for you. Accumulation mindset versus residual income mindset. Our society promotes an accumulation mindset. We're told to go and work and trade our time for money, and experts then tell us to, quote, save as much as possible for retirement. You know that the numbers prove this outdated retirement model is doomed to fail. The goal should not be to save a certain amount of money, but to empower your investments to predictably and safely produce a certain amount of residual income. Well, the great news is that high ROI investments also tend to produce a really high residual income. You may need $2.9 million or more to provide a six-figure post-retirement income with a traditional financial planner. However, you can create the same result with a lot less money by changing your goal from saving X amount of money to earning X amount of residual income. Here are a few critical differences between society's limiting accumulation mindset and a millionaire's reoccurring income mindset. If you had pen and paper and you were to make a list on the left and the right, you might title the top of your list on the left side, Accumulation Mindset. And then on the right side, I want you to write Reoccurring Income Mindset. And we're going to compare how an accumulation mindset compares to a reoccurring income mindset. On the left side, you would write scarcity. But on the right side, abundance, two total different energies. On the left side, save money over time, but on the right side, multiply net worth. On the left side, you can put saves in uncollateralized vehicles, but on the right side, loads up on collateralized assets. The left side, subject to markets, inflation, and taxes, but on the right side, leverages control to create relative immunity. On the left side, depends on experts for financial success, but on the right side, depends on self for financial success. Left side, thinks security comes from money, but on the right side, knows security comes from applied knowledge. Left side, waits for opportunities. Right side, creates opportunities. Left side, thinks high returns come from high risks. On the right side, understands high returns come from mitigating risk. If you find that you relate to the mindset more on the left side than on the right side, give yourself a little grace. It takes time to undo all of that programming. Remember, that started off in childhood, and it takes some time to break that. If you're anything like me, you saw your parents operate from a place of lack rather than abundance. You can break that cycle, but it does take time, patience, and discipline. End of chapter 4, checkpoint. Number 1, the Financial Freedom Roadmap is a battle-tested investment strategy and a proven 3-step system. Number 2, my compounding ROI investment strategy builds wealth through 5 vehicles. Number 1, single-digit ROI from your reserve tank. 2, double-digit ROI from passive real estate income. 3, triple-digit ROI from passive market income. 4, quadruple-digit ROI from business. And 5, infinite ROI through strategic partnerships. The third takeaway, my 3-step wealth creation system is comprised of 3 key action steps that work together. Number 1, reserve by saving 20% of your income, aka your aggressive saving strategy or ASS. Number 2, invest and earn double, triple, quadruple digit, and even infinite ROIs. And 3, convert that into lifestyle cash flow and reinvestment capital. Takeaway number 4, the more you save, the more you can invest. The more you can invest, the more you can convert to cash flow and reinvest to create a cycle that transforms into a cyclone. And the 5th and final takeaway, my compounding ROI investment strategy and 3-step wealth creation system combine to create my financial freedom roadmap. You can harness this financial power to build your wealth to previously unimaginable levels. Quote, most folks think they aren't good at earning money when what they don't know is how to use it. Frank A. Clark.